We do work a lot with freelancers that are transitioning into becoming agencies. And for me, this is one of the most rewarding parts of my role, is to watch somebody move from the side hustle hero to, wait, now it's time for this to be a full-time work. And now how can I build an agency? How do I hire a team of people to help me with this work? And to me, this is literally what keeps me going all of the time, is watching this success.
Well, hi there and welcome. Today's guest knows a lot about succeeding, especially when it comes to being a freelancer, and more specifically, a Fiverr seller. Because today you'll hear a conversation with the Global Senior Director of Customer Success, Trisha Diamond. I'm Joan Posivy, host of the Side Hustle Hero podcast, the show that is laser focused to inspire you to start or to scale your side hustle income streams. For the past 8 years, Trisha has been on the inside of Fiverr, seeing firsthand what separates the top sellers from the rest of the pack. And as you'll discover, a lot of her tips and insights apply to success in any business. She's in the perfect position to give us insider advice on what we need to do to break through and really excel on Fiverr. Tips for both the newcomer as well as the seasoned seller. In just the last 12 months, the platform has served over 4 million active buyers. You'll hear what's trending, best practices for success, what you can expect for earnings, and I think this is gold, what she sees as overlooked and underutilized hacks and success tips. But before all that, I have a favor to ask. If you're enjoying what you're hearing on this podcast, I'd be so grateful if you would take a moment and leave a 5-star review on the platform where you're listening, to let others know that there's valuable content here to help them start or grow their side hustle. Thank you so much. Now here is my conversation with the Senior Director of Customer Success, Trisha Diamond. Well, welcome, Trisha.
Oh, thank you, Joan. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, tell us about your life at Fiverr. How did you come to work for the company? What's your role now?
I've been with Fiverr for 8 years now, so it almost can't even feel when I came to the company anymore. I feel like I've always been here. But I started at Fiverr and I was the first customer success manager. So I started the department that interacts with high-touch relationships with our sellers and buyers. And over the 8 years, we've done a little bit of work. We're a team of about 50 now, and we're available to all of our freelancers and to many of our customers that are purchasing and the businesses purchasing on our platform every day.
Excellent. So you're dealing with both the buyer and seller.
Yes.
What's your official title?
Oh, my official title is I am the Senior Director of Customer Success.
All right. And that's global, North America?
It is global. So our team is split between Orlando, Florida, where I'm located, and our headquarters in Tel Aviv, Israel.
Fabulous. Well, with that kind of coverage, I know that there is literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of active sellers on the platform. That's a lot of competition out there. And I would imagine competition for a lot of the services. So you seem perfectly positioned, Trisha, to give us guidance on what a seller needs to do to break from that pack and really excel on the platform. Let's focus first actually on the newcomer. For someone who's thinking of starting a side hustle and launching on Fiverr, they might be saying, with so much competition on the platform, is it really worth it? Is it possible to make decent money? What would you say to that person?
So I would say absolutely. There is a lot of competition. It is a very big platform, but honestly, we have well over 600 categories of services. And then within those categories, you can really drill down into different niches. And in the last 12 months, we had 4 million active buyers. So while there are a lot of freelancers and independent workers on Fiverr, there's a lot of customers that are looking for flexible talent and looking to pivot towards freelancers to help fulfill their business needs.
And of those over 600, 700, what's trending right now? What's in demand?
So it's hard to talk about what's in demand, I guess, without AI first being the thing that comes up on everybody's mind. Okay. There are many services beyond that are trending. Yeah. But what's been exciting is we've seen a lot of connection to the freelancer working in the AI space, whether that's helping you develop models or taking something that maybe you generated with AI and giving that human touch to it so it's more usable. So imagine if you created some text on an AI platform, but it doesn't feel necessarily friendly or something you would want to use in your marketing materials. For example, you can bring it to a freelancer on Fiverr who can then edit it and really clean it up and make it sound very human and fresh. So we're seeing a lot of folks that are working alongside different AI services or helping other companies adopt AI into their practices.
Nice. And I'm thinking about one guest I had on recently who was terrific, Mike Burton, a.k.a. Keybeaux.
Oh,
And
I heard that episode. It was so good.
he is so fabulous. And when I tell people that, yes, one of the people on Fiverr that I've interviewed is this rapper, and they're going, wait a minute, there's a rapper on Fiverr? And I'm like, yeah. And here's all the reasons why and why people are reaching out to him. I'm wondering what other categories of those 700 that people find surprising that they can actually find on Fiverr.
The range is so huge in the services. So some of it may be surprising, but we have anything from, I gave the example of copy editors,
yes,
to if you want somebody to build a website, maybe make you a custom animation for your business. If you want to hire spokespersons, a photographer to come shoot you locally in certain markets. Like, we really have everything available.
So it's not just online services. People with, you said, like that, potentially local photographer.
Yeah, potentially. It's primarily digital services, but photography is one of these spaces where we're looking at now, where we have a lot of opportunity in local markets. And what's going to happen in the future, I don't know, but it's been very strong so far. But in the photography space, we really started with product photography. So if you're selling something on Amazon and you need really nice 360-degree photos, you could send this in to somebody on Fiverr. They would take the pictures, send you back the product. And so the local market seemed like a natural evolution of where to go next with photography.
Great. Well, with respect to that newcomer, if they are thinking of getting set up on your platform, what are some best practices for them to get started?
So what I would say, if you're coming to Fiverr for the first time, the first thing I would do, of course, once you've identified, like, what is the service that you can offer? What is something that you're very good at? Or maybe you want to start the side hustle because you want to develop a new skill. First, do a search for what that is and see who your first results are in that search. These are generally the freelancers on Fiverr that are performing the best.
Right.
And I'm not saying copy, but like, look at what they're doing, follow for best practices. You can check them out for their pricing, how they structure their services. We have packages for everything. So you can think about where you could come in at a lower price, but very easily within your gig page, upsell into more premium packages. And the first thing is really, honestly, look at what other folks are doing, because there's going to be probably someone who's successful for any genre.
I've had a couple of guests on that are on the platform, and what they've done is, when they started, is take a look at some of those top sellers and strategically price just underneath those top sellers, with the anticipation that that would generate some traffic for them until they build up the reviews, and then at some point in the future could start raising their prices. What do you think of that strategy?
I think that it's a great strategy when you're new to any sort of market, whether it's freelancing or if you're anywhere in the world. You know, you always want to come in with a stronger value than the folks that are established in that industry. And I mean, I don't want anybody to undersell themselves. So sometimes it's not just offering the same thing for, say, 20% less. Maybe structure your offering so that it includes 20% less that's a little bit extra that, you know, not everybody needs, and structure the offer accordingly. Because after all, we're all here in order to make a certain amount of money. Like, we have our financial goals and everyone should meet them. But as you're coming in and you're establishing yourself, it's a great strategy. I always think about Fiverr. If you know, you roll a snowball down a mountain. I don't know if this happens in real life. I'm from Florida, but I imagine you roll the snowball down the mountain, and as it goes lower, it gets larger and larger. And that's a lot like the buildup is on Fiverr. You start really small and you do a few jobs, and over time you can include more services, increase your prices, add more to the packages that you offer. And that's all of the successful talent that I've met on Fiverr, which is quite a bit. That's really how they all started.
That's a great analogy, Trisha. And being the Canadian in the room, yes, that's very accurate. That's what happens.
This happens. People do roll the snowballs down. One day I will do it.
That's how you make a snowman, is you start small and you build up.
Ah, makes sense.
But the issue with a lot of people that we've seen, regardless of the side hustle, to be honest with you, is they'll start rolling that snowball and it's like, oh man, this is too small and this is a lot of work. Forget it. And they walk away.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you're so close to gaining that momentum.
Yeah.
And I imagine it's going to vary, but what sort of runway do people need to give themselves to give it a chance?
It definitely does vary based on like the service and even seasonality, for example. Like, if you're looking to do coaching for students that are going into college, If it's the middle of the summer, actually, maybe that's a good time. But if it's in the middle of the school year, it's probably not the best time to do that coaching.
Okay.
So what I would say, though, if anyone's starting to feel that frustration and like they need more time or it's not happening fast enough, we have a lot of resources on Fiverr. And my favorite is the Fiverr Forum, because it's a mix of very successful freelancers and folks that are newer to the platform. And you can ask for advice, you can exchange tips and tricks with your peers. This is a fantastic resource. Of course, you can contact Fiverr, and we have a lot of resources. And this is what my team does a lot in a really specialized, like personal one-on-one way. But there's nothing quite like talking to your community of fellow freelancers to understand, like, how did you get there? I'm here right now. Will you take a look at my services and let me know what you think? But if this is your side hustle, like, it's amazing, but give it some time. And don't give up, just like anything, I think, in life, not just side hustles, not just freelancing on Fiverr, anything in life. You have to give it a little bit of massaging and you'll get there.
Absolutely. That Fiverr form that you mentioned, is there a cost involved for that?
No, it's totally free. You just have to log into it with your Fiverr account. And yeah, there's a lot of wonderful people there. And I love watching it. I read it almost every day just to see the exchanges that are happening. And it's this collaboration, but also it's a great place to talk about if you're frustrated and like, what can I do? I'm frustrated with my growth, or I had this really high season and now it's a little lower. And you see that maybe you're that person that's coaching people for college admissions. They're like, oh no, this is always a quiet time of year.
Right. Yeah, that's okay. You're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
And imagine you tapping into that too helps you stay really current and close to what's happening in the marketplace of your buyers and sellers.
Absolutely. It's so important to me. Even in my role, I do work, it's a smaller pool, but I do work directly with our freelancers on the platform and also many of the businesses that come in, because it's so important that I make sure that my team, that they know everything. First of all, they know everything more than I do, but I want to be able to help guide them and bring the right information to our base of talent at any time.
You'd mentioned how sellers can structure their packages. A lot of the common ones I've seen, there's 3 different levels.
Yeah.
And so for a newcomer, I find oftentimes we can increase our offering in such a way that it really doesn't cost us as the seller that much more, but really adds value to the end user.
Yeah. So every category has a different example. One of my favorite ones, though, is if you're offering voice talent work on Fiverr. So you're recording this script anyways, and you deliver a certain file. And one of the upcharges that you can do that doesn't cost anything else is maybe deliver a higher quality file. Like if you're using your voiceover for this purpose, you're going to need a higher quality file. And I'll provide that for an extra X dollars.
Okay.
Or something else that, because you're reading this script already, you could add a proofreading of the script in. Say, hey, I went over the script and it doesn't actually flow that naturally. So I propose these changes. So not only does it make the work that you're doing better, more clear, and how you really feel it should be.
Right.
And something you're probably reading anyways, but you can charge for it a nominal amount that, as a business owner, somebody coming on, it makes perfect sense. Like, yes, I would like this professional to review the script and tell me what I should change.
Yeah, especially somebody that's been, they are a voice actor.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in the beginning, I assume too that we can add some of those things at no additional cost just to help differentiate ourselves. Because like I said, that person's in front of the mic anyway. And maybe instead of an MP3, they deliver it as a WAV or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Like included in my basic package is proofreading, a WAV file, and anything else.
Well, how about someone who's been on Fiverr for a little while and they just haven't been able to gain any traction? Maybe they're even thinking about giving up.
Right.
Would you suggest that they do?
So besides, don't give up. I would say it's a good time. How long has it been since you first set up your services? How long has it been since you look at the possible competitors that are sitting at the top of this category? Because as maybe when you set up, some things have become trending and have changed since then. It's been a month or 6 weeks and things can change. And so I would say, look at your services again, look at them next to your competitors. And also really, I know I said it already, but utilize that Fiverr Forum and understand, especially like we see like in writing and translation, different services will trend at different times. Like articles and blog posts was very big for a while and it still is. But lately we're seeing a big trend in copy editing. So perhaps you have the skill to do either, but you're really focused on the first one, on writing blog posts. but there's a big demand for editing, you can shift over to this and you don't have to scrap the first service. You can leave it there and create an additional service. And then you start to build a whole profile full of different diversity, which also the folks that are buying on the platform, they might be looking at that. They may have looked at you and saw, they don't do editing, they only do writing. And as a writer, it's one and the same, but somebody who's not a writer, they may not realize that.
And if a person branches out like that too, it's still going to be on their seller page. So they retain all those reviews they already have.
Yes, absolutely. Right? If they had a few reviews in the first service they feel is not working, it's still retained on their seller profile. So when someone comes to look at them, it's like, oh no, this is someone that's made some very satisfied customers so far. I'm confident to work with them.
So using that blog writer example, if they see their sales have kind of flattened out or not ramping up that they wanted to, what are some resources or the resource they could look to see what's trending, to see where they could apply their skills in a different area? Like you were saying, AI related.
Yeah. So actually one of the best places that's outside of Fiverr that you can look at is sort of just in the world. Anything that's trending in general markets, offline and online, is likely also to be trending on Fiverr. So the first thing I always think about, like, what's in the news? Like, what are you hearing a lot about? Like, for example, AI, or like a year ago, we were hearing a lot about NFTs. And if you're hearing this a lot when you're just listening to the news or going about your day to day, first of all, I think that's a good gut check of, hey, maybe this is something that I can do something with. You can also click around. I always recommend that you do keyword searches on Fiverr, but you can also click around. So in the writing scenario, you could just hit writing and translation and also see what is there. See what's coming up when you click the different categories. This is not usually how the businesses that are buying on Fiverr are navigating the platform. So it's not a great assessment of how well you are doing, but it's a great assessment of what's very popular right now.
Yeah. And looking outside of the platform to see what's trending, who knows if there are 700 categories now, maybe this person discovers 701.
Right.
They
Exactly.
go, I wonder how I could do that on Fiverr. How can I tweak it to make it
Absolutely.
Online?
Yeah. And with 700, if you even don't see a category for it, I bet we can find a place that we can fit you in.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, talk to us, if you would, Trisha, about earnings. What are the top sellers earning and what's average?
Yeah, so there's a huge range, of course, of the earnings that freelancers on Fiverr see. Anything from somebody who's newer, or it's a side hustle, so they're earning a few $100 to $1,000 or so a month. To we have folks that are working on here full time and making six figures and well over six figures a year. I know of sellers that are making 10,000 plus a month, but I know of sellers that are very happy making $1,000 a month or even less. It all depends on, one, how invested you are into this part of your career.
Yes.
And also what niche you find yourself in and the amount of time that you build into it and the experience that you gain along the way.
And in your experience to get to that, and again, I know this is going to vary with the service that's offered and the seller, but for someone to be in that top seller six-figure category, how long have you seen that these people have to be on the platform for?
I've seen the whole range. I'll give it a very inspiring example recently of somebody who came in and tapped into AI very early. And this has not been a trending topic for very long. So they've been doing this a few months, but they're on target for a six-figure this year if they continue. But typically, I would say from my experience, getting to six figures is a huge milestone, but we do see people breaking the $10,000 a month. We can see it in under a year easily.
Nice. That's very cool. That's very inspiring, actually.
Yeah, no, it's inspiring to be. Sometimes I'm like, wait, maybe I need to be a freelancer.
Yeah, what am I doing after 8 years here, right?
Yeah.
And a ton of knowledge.
I lack the talent, however. This is the missing piece.
You no doubt excel in your role, so they want you to keep you there. So, well, are there any lesser known insider tips or hacks that you want to share as we wrap up? Tips for sellers out there?
Absolutely. So one thing I do love about Fiverr is that we're very transparent with the things that you need to do, and these are the recommendations we have to help you succeed. But what I think is often overlooked sometimes is the interactions that you have with your customers on Fiverr. So you're the freelancer, you've sold a service to this customer. And how does that go along the way? Are you keeping them updated? Are you making sure that they're very comfortable? Do you talk about the process from beginning to end, like really be very transparent with them, because that satisfaction that comes for your customers is the number one driver. When I talked about the snowball, it's these customers that'll become repeat customers that'll really help build you up into the snowman that you want to be. So it's not something that's like lesser known, but I think it's often avoided. I have an amazing freelancer that I know, and recently they were having a lot of trouble, and we were trying to dig into this. Like, why is this? You're very talented. You've had a lot of success on the platform for a long time, but they had gotten so busy that what happened is they stopped really updating their customers on what the process was, or if the customer would ask a question, it would take them days and days to answer. And eventually they would lose this order because the customer needed to go somewhere else. And sure enough, we pinpointed that and we came up with a plan on how we can address this better and how we can control the volume. I mean, that's a beautiful problem, right? To have too much volume of work. And by going with that, within honestly like weeks, we started to see a strong uptick again. So this is something that I think that is just so often overlooked, especially for experienced freelancers, because they're like, no, I'm very good at making websites and I make the most beautiful website ever, but I've got too many. So I'm just going to not answer so many messages any longer.
A victim of their own success.
Yeah.
They need to start hiring.
Right. Absolutely. Now, we do work a lot with freelancers that are transitioning into becoming agencies. And for me, this is one of the most rewarding parts of my role, is to watch somebody move from the side hustle hero to wait, now it's time for this to be a full-time work. And now how can I build an agency? How do I hire a team of people to help me with this work? And to me, this is literally what keeps me going all of the time, is watching this success.
Yeah. And the service to the client is so important. Like, there's one seller in particular that I use pretty much every week. And one day I went to upload something to him and it's, I'm on vacation for a week. And I'm like, I need this in 3 days. I didn't know you were going on vacation. And he jumped in to look after it. And then times after that, if he was going to be away for any length of time, he'd shoot me a quick note so that I can plan it accordingly, which is great. He didn't have to do it. And it's one of those examples of, yes, it did take him a moment to fire off that message, but at the same time, that's huge for me as the buyer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He knows that Joan is coming to me very regularly and needs these images in a really tight deadline. So Joan is on the list of folks that I will communicate to and let them know if they have anything in the pipe. Now's a great time. And I can tell you that this is an amazing freelancer. I want to, offline, let me know his name. But really, this is something that I think is so often overlooked, because Fiverr is so easy. You come on the platform, you make your service, and your customers, they come to you. You don't have to do any extra marketing work and all of that. So it's very easy to lose these like nuances of, oh, wait, I should keep my customers informed. And so this is a good one you have there.
Yeah, I just want to reemphasize that, because even though it is an online platform and this person could be on the other side of the world, there's still a real human buyer that, just like in the bricks and mortar store, you give that exemplary customer service, it goes a long way.
Absolutely.
And I know some of these sellers aren't making a lot per order, but cumulatively it builds up. And again, just put out that customer service till you build up that reputation and it becomes easier.
Yeah, exactly. And when you're growing, you get to the point you need to hire something. I think the first person I've ever seen someone hire is like, please handle my messages for me and please take care of these notifications, because that's the part, as you've increased your prices, you're making more per order and all of that, and you're really focused on the work. That it's always the first part to go. Like it's human. We became freelancers because we excelled at this one particular skill, not necessarily because, like me, spent 15 years working in customer facing roles.
Okay. Exactly. Right. There are a multitude of blogs and YouTube channels and social media pages that give advice on being a Fiverr top seller. What's one or two that you would recommend our listeners turn to for the most accurate, concise, actionable advice?
So that's very hard for me to say. I do watch a lot of these, and it's always so inspiring to see freelancers like on different platforms sharing their stories and helping others. Right. But honestly, what I would say is Fiverr, we have the blog, we have a forum, we have a YouTube channel as well, where we're sharing inspirational stories or tips and tricks about how to be more successful. And start here. Start with Fiverr, go from there. There's a freelancer who I really like. His YouTube channel is DJ Young. And I believe he's been on your show before, right, Joan?
Would that be Joel Young?
That is Joel Young.
Oh my God, Trisha. Okay, so he was episode number 1.
Episode 1, really?
Yeah, the very first one. He was telling us that his lifetime earnings on the platform is 2.7 million. And his message for us, and it's something I really needed to hear in that first episode, he said, if anybody's going to be a success, they've got to be willing to fail, but not only just fail, they got to be willing to fail in public. Put yourself out there, give it a go, give it a try. That's my experience with Joel Young.
That's incredible. And it's so right. So he is definitely somebody that's out there on social media that I think is very interesting to watch and can give a lot of good tips and advice. And if anything, the inspirational content from these successful freelancers sometimes is all we need. Maybe we don't need the tips. We just need to hear that we can do it.
So you're saying he's on YouTube giving tips on how to excel on Fiverr?
Yeah. He has a whole YouTube channel. I haven't seen anything, but there's a lot about Fiverr, and a lot of it has some tips and advice, and also just talking about freelancing in general as well.
You know what? That's coming back to me now. I'm going to dig up the link and put it in the show notes.
Yeah. He doesn't know me, but I guess he'll be happy.
Yeah, that's right.
I know him very well. He worked with, who was actually my best friend, who's no longer at Fiverr, but was his CSM like 7 years ago.
Oh, so really? Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So I know him well and I follow him.
Well, thank you so much, Trisha, for sharing your insider's perspective and your experience on what it takes to excel on Fiverr, and for being today's side hustle hero.
Thank you so much, Joan. I'm so happy to be here. I'm happy to come back too. So just let me know.
Excellent. Thank you. I love Trisha's snowball analogy. It's so true. When you decide to launch your side hustle, it's like you've packed this little snowball and then you start to push it down, well, the road actually. It's kind of flat. And at first it can take a lot of effort to get it going. You're pushing and you don't see a whole lot of growth. But eventually, if you stick with it, the road becomes more steep and all your efforts start to gain momentum. And over time, your snowball grows. It grows as it travels down the slope known as your timeline, and you get more referrals and repeat business, and eventually you have to hire others to help you out. If you've been a listener of this podcast for a little while, you've heard many side hustle heroes speak about the necessity of sticking it out long enough to give it time to succeed. The other thing that came to mind for me when Trisha spoke is the idea that success leaves clues. So take a look at whomever is at the front of the pack of your industry and see what they're doing. How did they break through? What are some of their best practices? And better yet, find a way to connect with them. Invite them to have a coffee with you, in person or virtual. Will everyone say yes? No, not likely. But it doesn't cost you anything to ask. And it could lead to a wonderful connection. Well, that's a wrap for today. You'll find links to the sites that both Trisha and I mentioned at our website, sidehustlehero.com. If you enjoyed this episode, let me know you're listening and tell me how this podcast is helping you. You can tag me or send a DM on Instagram at Joan Posivy. Thanks for listening, and hustle on.